Hello, ni hao. Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on June 25, 2025. I know, it's around 25th, but to a person like myself who's got a little bit of a hearing impairment, when people say 25th, sometimes it sounds like 26th. You know, it's really annoying actually. Like sometimes when I ask the uh, AI or device from like Amazon Echo. What is the date today? I say today is June 25th. Like, did I say 25 or 26? Yeah. Anyway, welcome to my world. So, we just wrapped up a whole series, like a sixth episode, talking about the Chinese afterlife, the underworld, hell, and all that stuff. Now, some people who really know their Chinese religion will say, "Oh, wait, hold on. You did not talk about Meng Po and Meng Po Tang, the potion that make you forget your previous life and all that stuff." Well, because I actually did a video on that 2 or 3 years ago. So if you scroll back on the Wisdom Wednesday or Proudly Asian playlist, you will find uh, a video said, "Why can't you remember your previous life?" And in that, I detailed this last part of the underworld, the afterlife, which is before you can reincarnate, you have to drink this potion. There's this nice old grandmother uh, at the entrance of hell who hands you a nice hot cup of soup, and you drink that, and you will forget all the grievances, all everything about your previous life, and you can start with a clean slate. So in that video, why can't you remember your previous life? I talked about where this old lady came from and all that stuff. So there's no point to rehash that. If you guys are interested, you can look it up. Like I said, just scroll back on the Proudly Asian playlist and you'll find it. So, moving away from the afterlife, today we are going to talk about some of the most famous tyrants, tyrannical rulers, emperors in Chinese history, and how did they become the way they were? Because, believe it or not, emperors were just as human as you and I. And most tyrants, I mean, there were a few sociopaths, a few psychopaths here and there, but most tyrants didn't become tyrants just because they like it. Most tyrants actually had pretty legit reason to become as violent and as ruthless as they were. Not to say that we condone their behavior, not to say that they were excusable, but at least if we can't forgive them, we can offer them a little bit of sympathy because if you lived their life, maybe you wouldn't have done any better either. Right? Now, tyrant in Mandarin is called Bao Jun, Bao Jun, Bow J Jun, Juin, Bao Jun. Uh, the Yun word is a little bit difficult for English speakers to pronounce because there's no actual equivalent in English syllables. So 暴君, Jun means is from 君主. 君主 means ruler. Okay, 暴君, 暴 means violent. So 暴君, 暴君 means tyrant, a violent ruler. Or if you have a violent parent, like at home, we used to call my dad the 暴君because he really was. Um, now, in it's quite interesting that in uh, Chinese history, there's a distinction between uh, bad emperors. Right? There's several different kinds of bad emperors. The one kind is Baojun, tyrant, and the other kind is Hunjun, Hunjun. Okay, so Hunjun and Baojun, they were both not very nice emperors, but they were very different. Okay, Hunjun means that this emperor was kind of dumb, kind of stupid, did a lot of wrong things and didn't accomplish anything and made a lot of mistakes, or just didn't put any effort in at all. All he cared about was spending time with his women and eating and drinking, and he didn't do anything. So Hunjun is more like meaning a stupid emperor or lazy emperor. That's actually very different from Baojun, which means tyrant, because tyrants they were violent, yes, but a lot of time these tyrants ended up being very accomplished. They got a lot of things done, such as our first example, Qin Shi Huang, King Shi Huang. He, the founding ruler of the uh, of China, basically, the founding ruler of the Qing dynasty, the guy who built the Great Wall, the guy who excavated the Yellow River and the Great River and established the road system and waterways in throughout China. Like he's done so much in his life that considering that he died when he was 50 years old, right? He had a relatively short life. Uh, Considering how short his life was, and even shorter if you subtract the time he had to spend growing up and then fighting in wars and stuff like that, he got a lot of stuff done. So even though he was a tyrant, he was very accomplished. He did a lot for his country. And then another example is Zhu Yuanzhang, Emperor Zhu of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty. Again, a definite tyrant, killed a lot of people, but Zhu Yuanzhang had, well, no, he basically reclaimed China from the Mongol. So you can't say that he didn't do anything. So while tyrants, Bao Jun and Huan Jun are both bad emperors, um, there's a intrinsic, fundamental difference. Hunjin means a lack of ability. This emperor just didn't do shit. Baojun means a lack of good personality. It means he got a personality problem. And Baojun means that even though this emperor might have done some good, but he was really violent and merciless and horrible. So today we're going to look at a couple of these historical tyrants and go into their background and look at why were they the way they were. Were they just bad people, or maybe it was circumstance that turned them the way, uh, turned them into the tyrants that they were. So let's start with what, who is probably the most infamous tyrant in Chinese history, none other than Qin Shi Huang himself, the guy who built the Great Wall. We already mentioned that a few minutes ago, right? Okay, so Qin Shi Huang is like known to be like one of the worst tyrants. Uh, he conquered all the other kingdoms to unite China, and of course, while you're conquering all the other kingdoms, you got to kill a lot of people. Uh, he almost murdered his own mother. He had his two step brothers killed, and he was infamous for committing a crime called 焚书坑儒, which means he burned a lot of books and murdered a lot of scholars. Although we do need to clarify the whole killing scholars part in a little bit. Okay, now, so why was Qin Shi Huang such a hardcore person? Why was he kill, 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 kill? Why was that his memo? Was he just bloodthirsty? Was he a psychopath that enjoyed killing people? Not really. Qin Shi Huang, at the core of his personality, did a lot of these bad things out of fear. First, let me take you back to his childhood. Okay, the Qin Shi Huang and his Qin Shi Huang's dad. Okay, Qin Shi Huang's dad was a son of a prince of the kingdom of Qin. At that time, it wasn't China. At that time, China was splintered into like 13, 14 different countries, different kingdoms, different states. Okay, so Qin Shi Huang's dad was one of the princess, one of the princes of Qin, but because he wasn't the elder prince, and he wasn't really in line for the throne, so he ended up being sent to another kingdom called Zhao. Now, at the time, because Qin and Zhao, the two states, were constantly fighting, so they in an attempt to have some kind of stability, they exchanged princesses and princes and royal bloodline as hostages. And how this worked was basically, here, I'm sending you one of our princess. I'm sending you a prince, and you can send me one of your royal cousins or something. And this, if you piss me off, if you invade my territory, I will kill your royal cousin. Okay, and if I invade your property, then you can kill the prince. That's what happened. Okay, so at that time, people did that a lot. A lot of the kings of these different warring states, because you can only have one successor. You can have one crown prince. Well, what are you going to do with the rest? Well, you send them to other countries as officially as messengers and ambassadors, but in truth, they were hostages. So, uh, Qin Shi Huang dad was one of these hostage prince, got sent to Zhao. And long story short, okay, while he was in Zhao, he befriended a very rich merchant by the name of Lü Buwei. Lü Buwei uh, saw how this prince from Qin was a hostage, and he was poor and he didn't have money for food, because you just because you are royalty, when you get sent over to become a hostage, they don't feed you. They kind of treat you really bad, because you are only here. Your only purpose here is we kill you if your dad pissed us off. So the, this prince was not very well fed. He was always living in fear of his life. And by good fortune, he met this merchant Lü Buwei, who sponsored him and bought him clothes and got him an education and got him food and got him a business of his own. A few years later, Lü Buwei brought this prince, a prostitute. And this prince, you can imagine, all these years being poor and scared and have no companion, saw this beautiful young lady who's a lady of the night, fell in love with her, and they got married and had a son. And this son was named Yin Zhen. Yin Zhen grew up to be the infamous tyrant Qin Shi Huang. But that's not yet. So our hostage royal prince found out that the Zhao king was going to have him executed, because apparently the Qin king did something naughty. In fear, he, with the help of Lü Buwei, his best friend, escaped Zhao and ran back to Qin. He got out, but he left his wife and his son Yin Zhen in Zhao. Yin Zhen was only 3 years old at this time. So, for the next 6 years of his life, Yin Zhen and his mom uh, were chased all over Zhaoguo. They were being harassed, being hunted, and being tormented, and have to suffer starvation and violence and all that stuff. Before finally, when he was 9 years old, Yin Zhen and his mom uh, was able to return to Qingguo and get reunited with Yin Zhen's father, who was the emperor, or not emperor, was the king of Qingguo now. And soon after, the king died, and Yin Zhen became the next king. And thus, our tyrant Qin Shi Huang started rearing his ugly head. Finally, I mean, you gotta imagine this kid from 3 years old to 9 years old have to starve and escape and be a refugee and uh, God knows the kind of stuff him and his mom had gone through, right? Okay, so cool. He's finally the king, and now he decides that that's not good enough. I can't just I'm it's not good enough that I'm the king. I have to I have to have closure on my childhood. So he led an army and invaded Zhaoguo, the place that he escaped from. And when he conquered Zhaoguo, he had all those people who chased him and his mom all over Zhaoguo, all those military people, all those politicians, all those police officers. He had all of those people brought to him, and he watched them. He stood there and watched as his people buried these people alive. That was his way to say, that's it. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared of you guys anymore. Look what I can do to you. And yet, his tragedy did not end here, because just as our new crowned king was happy about his conquest of Zhaoguo and being able to have some closure on his childhood trauma, he learned that his mom has been sleeping with his dad's best friend, Lu Buwei, all these years. And so, and not only that, Lu Buwei even introduced his mom to another guy. You know, I don't know what kind of kinky relationship was going on there. So while he's out fighting battles and conquering lands, his mom's home uh, just screwing around, having these affairs like with his dad's best friend and this best friend's best friend, and one of these affairs resulted in two brothers, two children. So when Yin Zhen or Qin Shi Huang found out about this, he was furious. He was furious. He came home and had his mom thrown in jail, killed her lovers, and had his stepbrothers executed because he was so scared of the shame that this was going to bring to his name. I mean, here I am working so hard to unite China. Here I am working so hard to be a good king. And what you are back there destroying my reputation? My mom, my own mother, doing stuff like this. How can this be forgiven? So in uh, not only in addition to having to live with the fear that he suffered as a child, now that he grown up, he had to live with the fear of people backstabbing him, betraying him, uh, like his mom did. This is why Qin Shi Huang, his whole life, never had a queen. He slept with women, but he never made any of them his queen, because after his mom, he never trusted women ever again. And then, as he got a little bit older, as he found that his sword arm was a little bit weaker than before, and he was getting a little bit more sore and stiff after a campaign, he started to fear death. This was his third fear. Okay, our Qin Shi Huang was a tyrant because he lived in fear, and these fears came in three forms: fear as a child, fear of betrayal by a woman, and fear of death. He started to fear death, and he started to get the idea of looking for the fountain of youth, or looking for that special potion or medicine that can make him live forever. And this was the beginning of the whole Fen Shu Ken Ru thing that atrocity that he committed. Um, I'm not quite sure why he burned all those books, but the whole Ken Ru part was always misinterpreted by a lot of people as Ru means Ru Jia, Ru Shen. People think, oh, that's translated as scholar, so he murdered scholars. No, okay. I'm here to set this one straight for you guys. From now on, if people tell you Qin Shi Huang murdered a lot of scholars, no, he didn't. Okay, he didn't. The whole Kunru part came about when two of his most trusted Taoist monks took his money and ran away because they told him that if you give us the gold and silver, we can make you the medicine that make you live forever. And he believed them. So he basically got scammed by these two scam artists, and they took the gold and silver and ran off, and never gave him his medicine. So, in rage, Qin Shi Huang ordered to have almost 500 potion makers and people who claimed that they could make uh, medicines and snake oil and magic brews. All these people killed, uh, and that was how what that Kenru part was about. Kenru wasn't that he killed scholars. He killed a lot of scam artists, about 500 of them. That's what he did. Okay, got nothing to do with scholars. So as you can see, he do a lot of bad things? Did he kill a lot of people? Yes, he did. But most of these is because of the childhood trauma and the betrayal from his mom and the betrayal from these scam artists that just kept adding onto the fear that this very warrior like emperor was feeling his whole life. And fear on top of fear, and the only way to fight off those fear was to kill people. At least it worked for him. The second tyrant we are going to talk about is also very famous for his behavior, his violent behavior. This is uh, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang, the original founder of the Ming Dynasty. So just to quickly point this out, right? Like when we say tyrants bad. But look at how Qin Shi Huang was a tyrant, and he was a founder of the Qing dynasty, and then Zhu Yuanzhang was a tyrant, and he founded the Ming dynasty. So like yeah, they were tyrants, but they were able to found an entire dynasty. So kind of have to give that to them. Okay, so Zhu Yuanzhang, how bad was Zhu Yuanzhang? He was really bad. Right? Zhu Yuanzhang had this big distrust of scholars, big distrust of uh, rich people and nobility. And for example, Zhu Yuanzhang was the emperor that sort of invented the whole spanking as punishment. I talked about that in a past video about why Chinese people use spanking as a sentencing. When you do something wrong, they say you have to be spanked like 40 times or stuff like that. And a lot of times they'll pull down your pants and underwear and you'll be butt naked while you're getting these serving your sentence. This was invented by Zhu Yuanzhang. Okay, next time people ask you when did Chinese people start spanking people as a punishment? Zhu Yuanzhang was the one that really brought that into the legal system. Why did he do that? Because he believed that this was the best way to humiliate the rich people, humiliate the nobilities, humiliate all these high and mighty lords and ladies. I mean, you get a farmer, a dirt farmer, um, or a pig farmer, and you want to say, okay, we're going to pull down your pants and spank you. It's embarrassing, but it's not the end of the world, right? For a pig farmer. But can you imagine, like a minister of the interior design, or like a minister of agriculture having to get his underwear and pants pulled down in public and spanked in public? Like that would be horrifying. So this was Zhu Yuanzhang's very selfish and personal way of getting back at the nobilities. Also, Zhu Yuanzhang had this tendency to kill people who wrote or say things that he suspect were targeting him. For example, because he was a monk for a period of time, so no one's allowed to say the word "shen." Okay, "shen" means monk in Mandarin, but "shen" also means giving birth. "Shen" also means life. That like some of you know this. Chinese words sometimes it's the same syllable and mean many different things, right? Um, so when Zhu Yuanzhang was the emperor of Ming Dynasty, nobody can even write or say the word Shen. Nobody can write or say the word Zhu because that's his first name. People who sold Zhu Rou means pork couldn't call it Zhu Rou anymore. They had to call it something else. It was so crazy like that. So anyone who broke these, he called it 文字狱, the censorship, the word censorship. um, Anyone who broke these censorship would immediately get executed without uh, a way to appeal. So that was how tyrannical Zhu Yuanzhang was when he was the emperor. So if Qin Shi Huang's excuse was fear, what was Zhu Yuanzhang's excuse? Well, Zhu Yuanzhang was a tyrant and he killed people like that because of an extreme low self-esteem. He always felt people were targeting him. He always felt people were laughing at him. He always felt like people were plotting against him. He always felt that people were making fun of him because Zhu Yuanzhang started out as the lowest of low station. He was a peasant. He was a beggar. He was a monk. He was a highwayman. He was an outlaw. He was a goat herder, and no one in a million years thought that he would become emperor one day. So the entire time he was growing up, trying to survive, he suffered people looking down upon him, people laughing at him, people playing pranks on him, people making fun of him. Uh, People calling him, "Oh, look at that poor monk! Look at that stupid beggar! Look at that homeless guy, that hobo, that bum! Oh, why are you such a bum?" Um, and so when he finally became the emperor, Zhu Yuanzhang feared that people were still calling him the beggar emperor behind his back, people calling him the monk emperor behind his back. So this is why he was so sensitive, and he would kill anybody who even sounded like they were laughing at him. Like there was one time when he invited a very respected monk, Buddhist monk, to have dinner with him. And during dinner, Zhu Yuanzhang said, "Hey, I heard that you are quite a scholar. How about you write a poem for me?" And the I'm not going to like going through the whole poem because like unless you understand Mandarin, it's not going to make a lot of sense. But basically, the monk ended up getting executed because the first word in his poem uh, and some of you know this, Chinese characters usually have multiple words forming one character. For example, uh, if you have a word for people and then the word for door, then you form the word for crowd. Or I'm just making that up, but to give you an example, right? Like if you have the word for bug and then the word for tiger, then it add up to something else. So that's how a lot of Chinese characters work. But so when this monk wrote the poem for the emperor, the first word in his poem was the word pig add together with the word death. As we already mentioned, okay, Zhu Yuanzhang, his family name is Zhu, means pig. And he saw the poem and he's like, pig and death. You want me to die? And he was so mad because he believed that the monk was cursing him, wanting him to die. And it, even though the word had nothing to do with pig or death, it's just a word that consisted of those two words. But no, he wouldn't listen to the monk to explain that, and he just had the monk executed on the spot. And that was his special guest. This was how bad things was living under the rule of Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang. It say the wrong thing, write the wrong thing, or even if he just believed, if he suspected that you were uh, saying something about him, even though it had nothing about him at all, he would get you executed. And again, all this comes from his background as being a beggar, being a hobo, being a peasant, and growing up in such an environment, resulting in an extreme lack of self-esteem. The last uh, tyrant I'm going to tell you guys is a lesser known one. Not too many people know too much about him because, well, he wasn't really an emperor. He was more the king, and well, okay, maybe he was the emperor for like one generation, and then quickly got his dynasty wiped out by the next guy. So his dynasty didn't last very long. Uh, who am I talking about? I'm talking about the son of the famous warlord of the Three Kingdom period, Cao Cao. Cao Cao was the king of the Wei Kingdom, who ultimately triumphed in the Three Kingdom period. Cao Cao had five sons. His oldest son was Cao Ang, his second son Cao Pi, and then Cao Zhi, Cao Ren, etc., etc. Cao Hong. I think some of those weren't his son. I'm just like naming some of the his blood relatives. Um, I but in the end, his second son Cao Pi. Uh, I hate it because in Japanese adaptation, they call it Cao Pi. It's not how you pronounce that shit. It's Cao Pi. Okay. Um, just like it's not Cao Cao, it's Cao Cao. So Cao Pi ended up taking over and declaring himself the emperor, and uh, he he was a surprise to everybody because prior to Cao Pi becoming the emperor, he was a very low key, always smiling, always keeping things to himself kind of guy, very quiet, very non assuming. But he, um, the moment he became emperor, he did some horrifying stuff. Number one, he took over all his dad's women. like like these were his like these were his dad's concubines and mistresses. So technically they were his stepmoms, right? So he took all his stepmoms as his own concubines, and he uh, executed one of his own favorite concubines. Not only that, he also tried to murder his younger brother. So what happened? Like everybody was shocked. Like this non-assuming, mild-mannered Cao Pi suddenly became this demonic guy. Like he's sleeping with his stepmom, he executed his own concubine, and he's trying to kill his younger brother. Like what's going on here? How come Cao Pi turned into such a tyrant? Well, if you look at Cao Pi's upbringing, it's not surprising. Okay, Cao Pi was in a really tough spot, and this one I can really relate to because it's a story that happened again and again and again in Asian household. Cao Pi grew up wanting his dad's approval, but for some reason his dad hated him. Cao Cao once upon a time said to Cao Pi, "As a scholar, you suck comparing to your younger brother. As a soldier, you suck comparing to your big brother. So what the fuck good are you?" Of course, when Cao Cao said it, it was in beautiful, archaic Mandarin that didn't sound as crude as the way I just said it, but basically meant the same thing. Um, and that what he said there really hurt Cao Pi really, really bad. Okay. Um, and the later when Cao Pi's grandfather, Cao Cao's father, died, Cao Pi was crying at the funeral, and Cao Cao came over to Cao Pi and said, "You are so fake. Yeah, I know you're happy that your grandfather died. Get out of my sight." And he booted him out of the funeral. Like, dude, give the kid a break. Like, what's going on here? And that's not it. That's not the only thing. Okay, we most of us who read the Three Kingdoms know that Cao Cao was quite a womanizer, and it was said that uh, Cao Pi's favorite concubine was sleeping with Cao Cao in secret. So all the times when Cao Pi's out leading the army, leading the troops to different battles, Cao Cao's home sleeping with Cao Pi's wife, aka Cao Cao's daughter-in-law. So finally, when Cao Pi became emperor, he exploded. All these years of rage and jealousy, all these years of being neglected, being put down by his dad, came to the surface. Okay, you slept with my wife. I am going to sleep with your wife. So the first thing he did after becoming emperor was uh, taking all his stepmoms as his own concubine, and then he uh, went to the concubine that slept with his dad uh, once upon the time, his favorite concubine, and he said to her, "Okay, you want to sleep with my dad? Now that my dad is dead, you can go sleep with him when he's dead." So he had her killed and buried her next to his dad, Cao Cao. And because his whole life, his dad keeps saying that you as a soldier, you're not as good as your older brother. As a scholar, you're not as good as younger brother. Well, his older brother was already dead, so he couldn't do anything about that. But guess what? Younger brother was still alive. So Cao Pi tried multiple times, trying to get his younger brother Cao Zhi murdered. So as you can see, this mild-mannered, low-key person always had this rage bottled up inside of him. Every time his dad said something mean to him, every time his dad did something bad to him, he just kept putting that away, because he knew one day, just like the Lion King said, "Oh, I just can't wait to be king. One day I will be king, and then I will show you guys how angry I am." So was it a surprise to people around him that Cao Pi became a tyrant? Yes, because they were not expecting that this mild-mannered person was actually keep holding a grudge. But to those of us who studied him, study history from uh, 2,000 years in the future, and looking at his childhood, yeah, it's not surprising that all this rage would have to come out somehow. So I hope this episode has been somewhat educational, entertaining. I think it's very uh, meaningful that if we look at these tyrants throughout history and look into their childhood, look into what went wrong in their upbringing, we can actually see a lot of reasons why they turned out the way they were, such as Qin Shi Huang growing up being a refugee and being hunted by soldiers and police and have his mom was sleeping around with other people and giving him a bad reputation. All those fears and then the fear of death caused him to do some extreme stuff. Zhu Yuanzhang, growing up a beggar, a peasant, a poor sheep herder, and a monk, was always scared that people were going to make fun of him and talking shit about him. So he had this self-esteem issue. And then Cao Pi, growing up having his dad so disapproving of him, uh, cultivated this rage inside him. So when he finally became the emperor, all these things boiled over. Yeah, maybe we look at these people and we look at people nowadays, and like I said, even if we can't condone their behavior, maybe we can feel a little bit of sympathy for them. Thank you for checking out today's episode. I'll be back again later for some more Johnny Tiger goodies. Don't forget, if you want, please check out my very active, very new, and very cool blog called the Johnny Tiger Experience blog. You can find it at johnnytigerexperience.blogspot.com. Johnny Tiger Experience, all one word, all lower cap. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。